Okay, here's your step-by-step video on how to make your own yogurt. I started making yogurt just a year ago because where I live, finding full-fat Greek yogurt is next to impossible. And I ordered this off of Amazon. It's called, it's from Cultures for Life. They have their own website with a lot of instructions on how to do other things, sourdoughs, anything culture-wise, good health gut stuff. And I think this was like 12 bucks. Very good deal. And you get 2 packets that look like this. It just looks like a little yeast packet. This one actually expired in May of 2024. I do keep it in the freezer, so I'm hoping that if I ever need to restart, I'm gonna try to do this. But my first starter for my first packet, I've been using for a year. You do start out making only using a half gallon of milk for their little packet, and you can work your way up to a gallon. I just buy store-bought whole milk. You can use raw milk. There is a whole nother process with that, which I am unsure of. So you'd have to kind of look that up. It comes with a booklet on how to activate your starter and how to make your yogurts. Now, there is a lot of trial and error. Every Instapot is different. I will show you my Instapot. This is my Instapot here. It has a yogurt making button, which I think most do, right here. The problem is it's kind of like on your microwave where you have the popcorn setting. You never use that because you'll burn your popcorn. The yogurt making machine, also known as the Instapot, it's the same way. So there is some trial and error. In this booklet, it says the ideal temperature is 160 degrees. If you press your yogurt starter, it's gonna say boil. And then you're supposed to just leave it until it shuts off. You'll burn your milk and your yogurt will not be very good. So I invested also in a candy frying thermometer, electronic. Okay, so now we're just gonna take our gallon of milk and we're gonna pour it in the pot. This process is the same whether you're using a whole gallon or a half gallon. You could also, which I don't know, I've thought about doing it just because I'd have a little bit more control, is to heat this up on the stove. But then it kind of defeats the purpose of having one pot. Okay, now that you have the milk in the pot, you're going to hit your yogurt button. Sometimes it's 3 times, sometimes it's once, like this one. It's gonna say boil, and it's gonna flash, and once it gets to where it needs to be, it beeps, and it's telling you it's boiling. Now, every 20 minutes or so, I come and I stir and check the temperature. When it hits 160, I actually just totally turned the Instapot off. Okay, just a couple other things while this is doing its thing, and it can take about an hour to get up to 160, sometimes a little bit more. Depends on your outside temperature, I'm assuming. But some little tips, or at least one little tip, when I was doing a lot of my own research about this, you don't do yogurt under pressure. So you don't need the top of your Instapot. And especially if you have an older Instapot, mine's like 5 years old. And so I've used it for a lot of things, you know, chicken, chili, things like that. Well, the rubber seal on your Instapot lid is silicone. And you can't ever really get some of those smells out. And it's not needed. So if you use your Instapot for other things, don't use the lid for making yogurt, because otherwise your yogurt is going to end up tasting or smelling kind of funky. So I actually have a lid that fits onto my Instapot perfectly. Let me show you here. I'm going to take this out. Just put that over there for right now. And this fits perfectly. And I'll show you this, my other trick that I do when I start making the actual yogurt. But yeah, almost every video will tell you not to use your Instapot lid. Okay, so right now we're at about half an hour into the starting process, the heating process, and we're already at 145. So it's coming along. The other reason for stirring every once in a while, it keeps a skin from forming. You know how when you heat milk, there's that skin. Doesn't hurt anything. You could even make the yogurt with that skin already in there. I do find that the finished product just isn't as good. So I try to keep the skin from forming on the top of the milk, and if it does form, before I add the yogurt starter, I pull that out. And you have to continue doing that even after you've reached the 160 and let it cool down to the 110. Okay, so here we are at 160.9. Gonna stir it. And we're gonna shut it off. Cancel. And now we wait again, waiting for this to cool down to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. So at this point, as my yogurt is cooling down, I get my yogurt starter that I grabbed from my last batch of yogurt. It's 8 tablespoons. It's 2 tablespoons per quart of milk. So yes, 8 for a gallon. The reason you do this is you want to bring it up to room temperature, so it just doesn't shock the little critters that are living in there to make yogurt. The other thing that's very important during this time is to remember to continue stirring your yogurt or your milk so it doesn't congeal and get that yucky skin on top. So there you have it. As soon as this cools down, we'll go on to the next step. So here's a trick too that you can do if you're kind of like me and sometimes get a little impatient. You can actually put your liner of your Instapot in some cold water in a pan, and it'll help bring down the temperature a little faster. When I started this was at 155, and it is now 141. But as you can see, I'm stirring it constantly or consistently. Again, to keep that skin from forming. Doesn't always work. I mean, I've been known to still get skin on my milk, which I don't like, but sometimes you just can't do anything about it. So as you can see, the temperature's going down a little faster. It's still a process. Okay, so here we are. I was just really impatient today. Normally I'm a lot more passive when it comes to cooling this down. But as you can see, we're at 110. And the perfect temperature for this is 110 to 115. For my personal taste, I just rather do this at 110 and not 115 because the higher temperature can change the flavor of the yogurt a little bit. So if you do cool down your milk in water, you need to make sure that before you put the liner back in the pot to dry the bottom off really good. Don't know why, that's just what they say. So we're gonna put this in here, and we're gonna take the yogurt starter. Like I said, this is 8 tablespoons, and that kind of looks, I don't know if you can see, so it's just a little watery. I stir it up a little bit before I put it in the pot. Just like that. So just real slowly, let's just double check that temperature again. Nope, that's good. Okay. So the way I do this is I just slowly stir and pour. Just real slow. You don't want to stir vigorously. I understand that by doing that you can actually disrupt the bacteria and not make them happy. So just dump that out and just stir it lightly. And amazing, yeah, I didn't create any skin this time. It's always seemed to be a battle with me. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside, and we're gonna take our lid, and then what I do, and I don't know why I do this, I guess maybe I'm always a little nervous that it's not gonna heat up as well. I just take a bath towel and set it over the lid like that to keep the heat a little bit more in. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this back on yogurt, and you're gonna hit the button. They've got low pressure, 1230, and it's low heat. You do not want that. It doesn't get it hot enough or keep it hot enough. Oh Lord, now I gotta do it over. So what you want is 12 hours normal setting. You see that? Not the low setting and not this one. I'm gonna hit the yogurt. You might even be able to just put it on keep warm. I haven't tried that yet. I'm still using this. So what I do, what I think works best is at 6 hours, 5 hours, I check this just to see if it's actually setting or not. And if it is, I let it cook for another hour, so at the 6 hour mark. Again, when we get there, I'll record this. Another thing you want to remember is once you get to this stage, you don't want to be moving your Instapot around a lot. You don't want to be shaking it or jarring it. Again, I don't know why. That's just what they say. So I'm always very careful. Once I get the yogurt starter in there, the cultures, on my countertop, I will at that time take it and just kind of very gently put it on the back of the counter and just let it go. Okay, so I lost a little bit of track of time, but here we are. We're at 5:37, 5 hours and 37 minutes, and I'm gonna try to see if I can show you. I don't know, but see, it's not liquid anymore. It's kind of a mass. What you want it to do is more pull away when you tip it up. It's not quite there yet. So we're gonna let this go, maybe another hour. Another thing you can do is check it this way. It's a little solid. A lot of it's just, you get your own feel for it. Actually, I could even shut this off now and just let it sit here for another 2 hours covered. But I think I'm going to give it maybe another half an hour or 40 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like at that point. Okay, so here we are at 7 hours and 13 minutes. And, oh yes, it's much thicker. Okay, that's not going to work. You see how it pulls away from the sides there? You can see how thick it is. And what happens if you keep it in too long, it gets tangier or more sour. So this is a personal preference. Oh yeah, that's tight. Okay, so what I'm gonna do at this point is I'm gonna turn this off. And I'm just gonna let this sit for 2 hours. I'm gonna cover it with a towel. Here, I put that here. Only because it creates condensation and you really don't want that water in your yogurt. So at the end of 2 hours, 3 hours, go ahead and put it in your refrigerator. Just take this whole thing, take your liner out, but don't disturb the yogurt. Again, it's still growing, it's still eating the sugars, doing all the stuff that it's supposed to do. And even in the refrigerator, once it gets cold, it continues to do that. It will thicken your yogurt, it'll make it creamier. So yeah, just don't disturb it. Put it in the refrigerator until the morning. And at that time, I'll show you what I do next. Okay, so here we are the next morning. We've let our yogurt sit in the refrigerator overnight. And so this is what I do is I get it out. And let me get this here. And then I just stir it. And you can see how thick that is and creamy. And we're just gonna let it, you want it, the thicker the better. So we're just gonna stir that, try to get the lumpies out. But you still wanna, you just don't wanna whip it. You don't wanna, like with an electric beater or anything like that. Scrape up the bottom. Okay. So once that's done, I have these bags that I ordered off of Amazon. They're called nut bags, and it's to make like almond milk and walnut stuff. I don't know. They're called nut bags. And they come, I believe, in 3s, but for some reason I only have 2. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna move this to the sink just to help so we don't make a big mess. And some of the videos I had watched when I was doing this, they were having a really difficult time of transferring this mixture into their, you can use cheesecloth, you can do a fine mesh strainer. I just feel, for me personally, it's just easier to do it in these. Oh. And before I forget, you're also gonna wanna have a spaghetti strainer handy. Again, you want to do this in your sink if you have the room to do it, because it is kind of a messy procedure. I'm gonna move this over here. Okay, so take your nut bag, take a pitcher, and put that in there. And I put it over the rim so it's pretty sturdy. And you're gonna take, make sure that's being shown. You're gonna take this and you're gonna pour as much in the nut bag as you can. It's about half of your total mixture. Okay, oh, maybe a little bit more. And you're gonna take your bag and you're gonna cinch it. And you're gonna lift that out. Now, you are gonna get a lot of liquid. But what I do at this point is I just transfer that into the strainer. And I don't have a good system for this yet. I just basically wrap the string around kind of like a ponytail and wrap it around. You want it tight so that it doesn't fall out. Just like that. And you're gonna do it with the next. Okay, so both the bags are in your strainer. And what you're gonna wanna do is make sure your strainer fits into your Instapot. Or if you have another vessel that you would like to use, that's perfectly fine. I just like to use the Instapot. Again, the less things I have to wash at the end of this process, in my estimation, is a good thing. Okay, now just to let you know, at this point, you can eat this yogurt now. It's done. What I'm doing is creating Greek yogurt, and all Greek yogurt really is strained regular yogurt. You can actually make Greek yogurt out of the yogurt you buy at the grocery store. And the Greek yogurt's always more expensive. So at this point, I basically just put this into here. And then just depending on how much, how thick you want your yogurt, you can let it strain for an hour, 3 hours. I like to strain mine for a minimum of 12 hours. Sometimes 24. It just depends on what my plans are for it. My husband uses the really thick stuff. He mixes in to make other cheeses and stuff to make lasagna. Or you can make a cheese spread. Any number of things. There's a lot of stuff on okay, so at this point, you're just going to let it strain. If you're going to strain it for any real length of time, you're going to want to put it in the refrigerator. You're going to get a lot of whey. A gallon of milk. When I strain it, usually I will get at least one of these pitchers full of whey. And again, do research. There's 1,000 things you can do with whey. You could throw it away if you don't really want to use it for anything. Okay, I actually forgot one very important step. You want to make sure this hasn't strained for very long, so I'm going to do this. Normally, before I strain it, I take out 8 tablespoons of the starter. That's going to be your cultures for your next batch. You really want to do this before you strain. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And sometimes I put one extra just for extra measure. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And this will stay in your refrigerator for 7 days. No problem. You can freeze it. The Cultures for Health website tells you no more than like 2 weeks. I've actually frozen mine up to a month and have had great results with that. My figuring is that you can freeze sourdough starter for like a year. This is not much different than a sourdough starter. It's different bacteria, of course, but it works. If you are going to freeze it for a longer period of time, what I would do is put it in a container like this, freeze it solid, cover it with saran wrap, and then put the top back on. It will help keep the starter from getting ice crystals on it and stuff. So that is basically, I believe, everything you need to know about doing your own yogurt. Okay, so it's been about 5 hours or so since I have transferred the yogurt into the nut bags. They've been sitting in the refrigerator, and I guess I just wanted to show you guys what to expect towards the end of your project. And again, it's going to differ a little bit just depending on how thick you want your yogurt. So I have it back in the sink here. Let's see. Okay, I think you can see that pretty well. So as you can see, the bags have gone down quite a bit. They're more solid. They started way up here, and there's still quite a bit of liquid. So I'm not done with mine yet. I'm gonna go ahead and do this overnight, but was gonna show you the whey, which is the byproduct here. So this is what came out first thing when I was transferring the yogurt. And here is what is left. This is how much whey there is after 5 hours. So, there you go. So, by tomorrow, there might be about this much more. Maybe a little bit more. It does give off a lot of liquid. But like I said, you can use this at any point after you refrigerate it overnight. You can eat it right then and there, put on your breakfast cereal or whatever. It's just going to be thin. It won't be very thick. So I hope that this video has helped and has been informative. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments. And yeah, that's it. Have fun.